There's a few things about hell that you need to know before you die. Specifically, there's 5. The first being that hell is real. Now, there's a lot of people out there who don't believe that hell is real, and they live that way. They don't care what happens to them. But if you're not like that, if you're one of those people who genuinely have a belief that there's something after this life, I want to tell you exactly what that is. There is, of course, a heaven, and I hope you go there. I sincerely do. But there's also a hell. Now, why is there a hell? People wonder, well, why is there a heaven and a hell? Well, it's like asking, why is there prisons? Prisons full of people who commit crimes, correct? Well, it's the same way with hell. Hell is full of sinners. Now, Jesus doesn't want you to go to hell. That's why he died for you. And it's the same way with your parents. I mean, your parents don't want you to go to prison. Why would God, who's your father, want you to go to hell? So he doesn't want you to go there. And the thing is, people live like there's no hell. They just do what they want. They live any kind of way. They mock the Bible. They mock God. And then there's people who don't really care if they go to hell. They might believe there's a hell. They might not. I don't know. I recall a man by the name of Richard Dawkins. I'm sure some of you have heard of him. One of the worst God haters in the world. He actually created a website dedicated to people blaspheming God. And he gives a warning right up front. Here's the warning. Look, if you do this, you'll be eternally damned. And people still provoke God. They still blaspheme. And that's a terrible tragedy. It's a terrible thing that people would ignore warning signs and just go ahead and throw away their life. I think it's tragic. But there's 5 things that you need to know about hell. The first is that hell is very real. Now, I'm sure that the rich man and the story that Jesus gave and the rich man and Lazarus, I'm sure the rich man didn't really think about hell. He may have believed it existed, it may not. But all we know is that he didn't give it much thought, because Jesus said that the rich man in hell begged Abraham to send Lazarus to warn his brothers. He had 5 brothers, and he wanted them warned. And he said, if you send Lazarus to warn them of this place, maybe they won't come here. He said, send Lazarus. Father Abraham, send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water to cool my tongue, for I'm tormented in this flame. And then he said, I would, Father Abraham, that you would send Lazarus to my father's house, for I have 5 brethren, lest they also come to this place of torment. And Abraham responded, look, they have Moses and the prophets, which meant, they have the Bible. Now, when you read the Bible, you have the Old Testament, which is comprised of the law and the prophets. And so when Abraham said, they have Moses and the prophets, he was referring to the Old Testament. So at that time, before Christ came and died on the cross, salvation was written in the Old Testament. They still had means of salvation in the days of the Old Testament. And so the rich man begged Abraham to send Lazarus back to warn his brothers. Well, the response was, well, they have the Bible. They have the Old Testament. And here's the interesting thing. If you read the Old Testament, the Old Testament actually has just as much to say about hell as Jesus Christ did. And Jesus spoke on hell more than anybody. Now, if Jesus said that hell is real, my friend, you better believe that. Jesus spoke a lot about a lot of things which were true. Jesus foretold of the Roman Emperor Titus coming and destroying the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. He foretold that years before it happened. He also foretold of the diaspora of the Jews, which came to pass. He said that the Jews would be led captive into all the world, into all nations, which is true. If you look today, there's Jews found in every corner of the earth. So, my friend, if Jesus said that there is a hell, you better believe that it's real. Now, like I was telling you, people just don't care if there's a hell, or maybe they don't believe there's a hell. But the fact remains, if you were to die today, would you go there? That's a very serious question. And why would you go there? I think some people don't know why they're in hell. Maybe they do. Maybe they do know why they're in hell. They get there and they realize, I messed up. Okay, it's just like prison. I mean, some people get there and they're like, shoot, I messed up. And here's the thing. When you get to hell, you're going to know why you're there. You're going to know exactly why you're there, and you're going to live with that regret. You're just going to deal with it. And that's a terrible thing. You don't want to do that. So I'm here to warn you today about hell. It's the most important topic, I think, of anything there is. I was talking to a guy the other day, a couple weeks ago. He's a Muslim. And I said, man, look, I know you guys believe the Quran. Okay, but Jesus said, and this is a prophet of your own. You guys claim him as a prophet. Jesus said in John chapter 3, for God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Jesus said that. The prophet you claim said this. And he said, I know, but we don't believe that Jesus was the only begotten Son of God. My friend, do you not understand how serious it is to believe the truth? Because what if millions of these Muslim people who don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, what if they're wrong? What if they're wrong? And the fact is, they are wrong. I don't care what people say. I don't care what opinion you have. The truth is still the truth. If the earth was created in 6 days, that's the truth. If the sky is blue, that's the truth. We can have different opinions on it. We can argue till we're blue in the face about it, but the fact still remains. The truth is still the truth. History will never change. History is what it is. We might have different views of history. We might have different opinions about history, but history is never going to change regardless of what we think. Likewise, salvation is through Jesus alone. Whether we agree with it or not is not up for debate. Either you believe it or you don't. But believe not at your own risk. If you don't believe, that's at your own risk.